On a faraway world, in a distant future, a small-town sheriff finds a marooned riverboat that looks like it just carried a small army into her jurisdiction. A thief discovers the boat is powered by a valuable piece of off-world technology and decides to steal it. A pilot waiting for his next assignment is extorted by a mysterious stranger who seems to know how it all fits together. When a seemingly invulnerable monster starts murdering folk on the edge of town, they find themselves dragged into a shadow war between powerful corporate conglomerates that have exploited the people of their world for generations. The sheriff finds herself overshadowed by her own legend. The thief is on the run from another star, still on the move. The pilot must decide if he can pay the price of his conscience. That is the actual real blurb on the dust cover of my actual real novel that I wrote and that I published and that you can buy today. This still feels surreal to me to hold this in my hand after so many years of working on it and all the snags and setbacks of getting the words out of my head and into your hands, or my hands at this point. This is the very first copy. You can buy Harm's Place, a futuristic riverboat mystery, right now on DriveThru Fiction as an ebook in both the EPUB and PDF formats, or an actual physical copy via print on demand. It's only $6 for the digital version, which comes in both PDF and EPUB, plus the cost of printing if you do want a physical copy, which currently should also come out to about $6. And you should do that. You should go to the link in the description and go get it. It would honestly mean the world to me. And I reckon that unless your taste is completely juxtaposed to mine, you'll enjoy it. I know it's cool and artsy for an author to hate his work, but I don't. I think this is actually a good book. Hopefully not the best book I will ever write, but it's a very good book in a genre that is, in my opinion, shamefully underserved. That is, by the way, why I'm self-publishing. This is a sci-fi western. I don't know if the cover has tipped you off to that a little bit. I tried to get it traditionally published. I sent it to some agents, some editors, and the response tended to be, yeah, no, this is cool. We like it, but westerns are really not our market. And it turns out, and I found this out way late, the modern media industry just hates selling westerns of any variety. You have to say basically Christian cowboy romance to find a publisher for your work. And Christian cowboy romance, this book is most certainly not. Many of the famous sci-fi western shows and films, like for instance Firefly, had to be pitched without the western elements in order to get funding. They kept all the western aspects secret. They just pitched them as a generic sci-fi thing. It seems to me like only Quentin Tarantino is allowed to make westerns anymore, and he makes them without the sci-fi. I wasn't aware of this when I wrote this. I wrote this because I wanted to write it, and when I decided I'm not gonna let the industry culture stop me from selling a novel that I love to people who I think will love it as well. And you wouldn't be the first to read and love this book. Some folks have already read it or early drafts of it, which obviously were not even as good as this final version. And I actually have some of the blurbs of what they had to say right here. They're printed on the back. I started reading this and suddenly it was 3 a.m. and I had no idea how, says Bran, who, I kid you not, has actually read 50,000 books over the course of his life. A finely woven gothic mystery nestled in a futuristic setting brimming with life, says Joe, who actually knows a little thing or two about literary analysis, so when he uses those words, they actually mean something. I loved immersing myself in the tense mystery and following its rich cast as they uncover what lurks behind the tree line, says Matteo, an actual real-life physicist. As I understand it, he mostly does the hard physical labor of taking atoms and breaking them apart, presumably with some sort of pickaxe. Look, it's not hard sci-fi. By the end of this book, leaving Harm's Place feels like leaving your very own hometown. This is from Joy, and the context maybe you have to know is that Joy is not one of those people who hates her hometown. None of the people who wrote these blurbs are famous, but they are real people who have really read their book, and also they're my friends. I decided on DriveThru Fiction as my platform for selling it, because, to be honest with you, I don't want to work with Amazon again. I don't approve of them and their practices as a corporate entity, and I also don't trust them and their analytics. There's been a number of scandals these past few years of them pulling a fast one on writers, and I think that because they are very unethical as a company, there is a huge risk of them trying anything they can get away with, and it is my opinion that they can get away with a lot. I have worked with them before in publishing my short story collection From Up There a few years ago, and I was apprehensive back then about doing that, but they have lost all of my faith in the intervening years. I have an audience of RPG nerds, so most of them will already be familiar with DriveThru Fiction as a sales platform. It's DriveThru RPG, but for fiction. If you have a DriveThru RPG account, you can use it on DriveThru Fiction. They have a good reputation among writers and publishers, and though many years ago, like among consumers, there were complaints about the physical quality of the books produced, ask anyone. This is an excellently produced book. I love the cover. None of this has been a problem for a very long time. The only real drawback is that they only print in the United States and the United Kingdom. That is the compromise I had to make, so I wouldn't have to work with Amazon, though they do of course ship outside of those countries. And if you're buying the digital version, it doesn't matter anyway. You can get that anywhere in the world instantly. You could be eyeballs deep in this novel less than a minute from now. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description. Use a tiny amount of your Christmas money and get yourself my actual, real debut novel down there, right now. Treat yourself to it. It's winter in most of the world. It's cold. There's nothing to do. This novel is warm. Honestly, thank you so much for everything.